Hey guys, in 2024, we're doing something a little bit different. We want to hear from you on what movie we need to talk about.
Yep. If you guys like movies like us, we're definitely interested in hearing what type of movies or what movies specifically you want to listen to us. And if you want to give us some suggestions, there's the Beacons link available in the description, which then you have Discord, you have YouTube, comments, whatever you want to do, DM us. Just let us know what you want us to talk about, and we're happy to share that with you.
And of course, you can't forget to like, subscribe, give us 5 stars, name your children after us, or whatever it is that you want to do. But make sure you do it so that more people can find us.
Definitely, please support us because we need all the support, and you guys can definitely help us keep going in 2024. Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're here to talk about Dune Part 2. And as always, you love him, you know him, you want to write him. Ramon is in the house. Say hello, Ramon.
Wait, is it because I'm bald and look like an earthworm? That's fucked up, man. What's up, guys?
And another man that I wouldn't mind writing myself, Rose. What's going on, man?
Howdy.
I'm excited to talk about this movie, man. This movie was a lot of fun. I've been waiting for it for a long time. The first one captivated me. But before we do start this review, I do want to say that if you didn't watch Dune Part 2 while eating from this damn bucket, this monstrosity of a bucket, then me and you did not have the same experience. I watched this with Raul, and I can say that I had a very pleasurable experience watching it with Raul and eating from each other's Dune buckets.
Yeah, it's a little creepy, guys. I'm not gonna lie.
Hey, just
I
kidding.
got stuck.
Just and I think that happened to us too. I don't know if you were recreating when we were watching and your hand also got stuck, but yeah, that happens.
Did you guys both try putting in your fists into the same popcorn bucket hole?
Well, there was some
that seemed a little complicated.
There were some scenes where we just didn't know whose hand was going where. So, but
and so many lids were coming off.
Oh man, all the buttery goodness. Okay.
Yeah. Well, Ramon, you're our expert on Dune, so we're gonna leave you for last because you're gonna have all the goodness. But Ro, what did you think about Dune, man? I was there next to you, so I can kind of get an idea of what you thought about this movie.
I loved it. I thought it was awesome. There were so many things that just worked for this. The visuals were awesome, but that's kind of what you expect from Denis. The music was awesome, but Hans Zimmer. The acting was really good, but it's in like all-star cast. Like everything was awesome, and I have nothing bad. Well, I probably have a couple like things I would change, but I have minimal bad things to say.
After me and Rose, we finished the movie, we went actually outside and we were recreating the end scene of the movie just because we were trying to figure out certain ways. Yeah, we were trying to figure out how that knife fight played out. So that was really fun as people were staring at us.
Who did the Paul Atreides role over the other guy? Like,
I think I was Paul and he was Oh no! Raul was my Paul.
Okay. You were Fade. I see.
But Ramon, what did you think about this movie, man?
Well, I mean, nowhere near the actual Dune expert. Let's phone a friend and get Tony on here. But no, like you know what? I am very familiar with the Dune movies, and not even just because I rewatched them, because I watched them in the past. I watched them with like my father-in-law. Like it was just a thing, right? So I think with this one, for me, it is like the best reiteration of Dune. And maybe I'm speaking out of terms for those that read the books and kind of know the whole overall story. But like, I mean, we're talking about the movie, right? And this movie, and especially being part 2, like I think it was just great. I mean, for the many reasons that Raul mentioned, it is like a great I said combination of like music, like scenery, like actors, and it's just like you can't leave the movie. Like, even if you were like someone not knowledgeable of the story or didn't care about the story, right? You watch the movie part 1 and part 2, by the end of it, like you have to be a fan of at least the story that they're telling in this world. But I don't know. I was a fan of it. And again, kind of funny to contradict it to the other movies because they're just so silly now. But I don't know. I'm excited to talk about it, and and again, talk about why it works, because I think most people are going to be in the same realm as us. Like, we don't read all 6 books, haven't watched all the movies, and it's just, it doesn't even matter.
No, man. I am super excited to talk about this movie because, when I saw the first one 3 years ago, it just captivated me. I think I've seen it at least 6 times. I started the book. I'm 35% done with it. I do plan on finishing it one day, but I do struggle with this world. So as we're doing this review, and if I get things wrong, please correct me or ignore me. I'm just being kind of like trying to be serious about it, but it's so hard because I think it's just like there's a lot of terms that I kind of either forget or I would just mispronounce. But I do love this, man. It has something that Star Wars has not been able to give me in years. I think the closest it has come to is Rogue One and Andor, because I love that seriousness and just taking things to another level, like this movie does. It just brought so much joy to me. And the one thing I'm going to do right now, just to try to make this a little bit more enjoyable for you guys and our audience, is I'm going to try to drink a little bit from the water of life right here that I have with me. So if at any point you see me pass out, Ramon, please call 911. All right, so I'm going to start my journey right now.
All right, I'm watching you. I'm supervising.
Oh my god, that is bad. Tastes like
well,
piss.
That's because you took it out of a worm, man. What do you expect? Nothing that comes out of worms is good.
Wait. One question: is it all the UV blue?
Carlos over there drinking hypnotic. Okay,
you know what? Hypnotic. Yeah, hypnotic, bro. I'm like, what are you talking about?
UV blue, the vodka.
Yeah. No, I got you. I understood.
Yeah, I tried to do it too, but I turned it too blue.
I'm not as fancy as you guys, so I'm just gonna throw my little blue highlighter in my cup, and there you go. We're good, right?
Hey, if one day one of us decides to have a Dune party, I'm all in, man. I'm all in.
Let's do it.
But
I'll be the bald guys.
Bring your own worm.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know where to start, but I guess what?
Or bring your own spice?
I said I'm bringing my own worm. It's not that hard. Go anywhere else.
Let's start from the beginning, man. Let's start from that opening scene where Paul is sleeping in the sand, as much as I would like to be doing the same thing right now, because it's a late recording for us. but he wasn't sleeping. It turns out he was actually having foresight visions of what it could be in the future.
Yeah. I mean, I think right off the bat, I mean, you said you want to start with that, but I want to start with the idea that the first part of the Dune movie was setting up to this great climactic area where you obviously have more of a war, more of this transformation of Paul from trying to understand his prophecy, quote unquote, to this movie where it's becoming more of a reality, and then he's kind of going through the process of becoming who they want him to become. And I think that first scene is great because I think the movie does this really well, where it has so many moments that it is supposed to be an intimate conversation with him and his mother, him and his sister, that later we find out, him and Chani. But then the whole time you're kind of eavesdropping, but then it's you're finding out some really good, hearty things about the future of Dune and what's going to happen in the story. And it's just I don't know, it's just the idea that it sets up for later and it starts giving you visions of the future. I just love that.
It's funny because Dune gets a lot of kind of silliness from the names that the creator came up with. For example, Duncan, Idaho. So, as I was watching this movie and he kept calling her Shoni, which is her name, I swear I went the whole movie thinking, is her goddamn name Johnny?
If anything, it helps you pronounce it, right? Because you're Johnny? Oh, Chani.
Johnny, yeah. So yeah. So that was kind of for me. I was just kind of a little bit her name cannot be Johnny.
I mean, why not? Why not, Carlos?
No, yeah, and I would say that the thing that especially now that I've seen the second movie, the thing that I like about the first movie is how well it set up the world, because a lot of times you have kind of these movies that are meant to introduce either a franchise or something, and they do such a bad job because they're trying to set everything up. But the first movie, it set up this world, and everything that was done, it was done to give you an impression like, what is this world? Like the politics of it, the what Arrakis is, what the Fremen are, kind of what the different families are, and then kind of like the Bene Gesserit, and then what Paul Atreides, like the prophecies that are kind of like starting to kind of bubble up, and what he's meant to be within this world, within this universe of Dune and the whole franchise. So the fact that it set up this world and still made a really good movie that was compelling and super, you got super into all these characters, and then so much so that everyone still wanted to see the second movie that came out 3 years later, and the fact that it set it up so well that this movie could just focus on what this story was just going to be without having to set up really anything except except just introduce a few new characters with the emperor and then his daughter and then the other Harkonnen or Harkonnen, I don't even know how you pronounce it, but it's I think that a big credit for this movie goes to the first movie, which obviously goes off to Denis Villeneuve.
Damn, bro. Take that title away from Ramon as being our expert on this podcast episode.
Okay.
Because
never said I was.
If it wasn't for the fact that I saw your ripped armpit shirt earlier, I would be a little bit more impressed with you.
I want to reveal. No, but it's my old unit shirt, and it's tan. That's why I wore it.
As long as you don't show those pits, man, I'm those warm pits, and I'm all good.
No, but I mean, I do like the idea of like right away you start with like seeing the Harkonnens and the Fremen like already have that interaction that we were waiting for at the end of the first half. To me, it was just kind of something that like I mean the fighting I wanted to see more of, right, from the first movie, because it was a lot of the setup. I think in this movie, like seeing the initial interactions, and especially like the Fremen and seeing them like being desert warriors, right? Like I love every component of it, like just from the way that they wear their like still suits, the way that they just kind of like make their movements. I know later when they're kind of doing the whole what's it called, the ambush on the diggers on the freaking, oh my god, the harvesters. Just the fact that they use like those straws to be like under the sand, like that was one of the components that right from the beginning, especially when you do see like Paul like kind of listening in the sand and kind of like taking that little baby nap while he's telecommunicating with his sister, or like that whole thing, or having those like visions. Like I don't know, it's just great because like there's that connection with the Fremen and like the desert and Dune in general. And just to kind of know that the story is supposed to evolve from that and get them back to a paradise is kind of weird, because then you ultimately do destroy that whole idea of that desert life. But I don't know, man. I was waiting to see Zendaya a little bit more, and this movie was definitely all Zendaya, even though I hate how they kind of played her and how freaking Paul is just using her, but it's part of the game.
I have this weird thing with Zendaya where I see her in a lot of things, like, Euphoria, Spider-Man, this movie. And I know, don't get me wrong, I think she's very pretty, very attractive. But then when I see her in real, like in like premieres or in some random videos, like just on YouTube, I'm like, she looks so much beautiful in those videos. But then in movies, I don't know if they're going out of their way to purposely try to like not make her as attractive. But I'm like, she's a beautiful girl, man. Let her be beautiful.
That's the reason why she was a sand warrior. Like I don't think she's over there trying to put on makeup for anybody.
Trust me, if you see her on Euphoria, you will be looking at her a little bit different, because in that show you don't even know what you're gonna be expected to see from her, and it's great actress for sure. But no, man.
And she's about to be in that movie that's gonna come out with the tennis one with the two dudes. So
you would mention that movie.
I would.
I was gonna ask you guys, when in the beginning of the movie, when they went up on that cliff in the beginning, the bad guys, what are their names? The Harkonnens, and they went up. That was a beautiful shot. I love the fact how they were able to just like float so naturally, like
like
the way the technology
works.
The jetpacks. I don't even want to call them jetpacks because like they're
because they weren't. They were like levitation devices.
There we go. Perfect. Levitation devices. I kind of had a problem with the way they were sniped out, because I was like, oh, that's so smart. They got higher ground. But then they all got sniped out. And I'm like, well, how did they get sniped out? Shouldn't the people that sniped them would also have even higher ground for that to have happened? So that kind of like bothered me a little bit in the beginning.
No, they were hiding in the desert. It makes more sense. And if you think about it, like the dunes of a desert, like get some pretty high elevation. So all you got to do is go far off, be in a dune, like hide yourself, and then the second that they're in like a long enough distance,
Yeah.
I
don't
really
know.
enjoyed that scene. I actually that took me by surprise. I hadn't seen anything that cool because it was so smooth. And to you guys, I'm gonna call him a hover pack. I don't know. It was just,
device.
it's just it was like there was like no sound to it. It was just kind of like very beautiful, like advancement up, and like knowing that they probably were using like wires or something weird to actually film that section. It was like great. Like, and I don't know, just like the whole war tactics for either of them. Yeah.
Which similar to what
Smooth
the Baron
pass.
uses, right? The Baron uses kind of like some technology to levitate as well. Yeah,
and he's crazy because he levitates in every reiteration. Obviously, the books probably, but like in the movies. But this one is still like by far one of my favorite ways because it always like he always extends like a weird, creepy like creature. And it's not just like weirdly just kind of floating with nothing attached to him. At least with this movie, like or this variation of Dune. You have like his like spinal like mech, like whatever he has going on in his back, and whatever technology they have to make him do that, it's so great to just be able to see and kind of imagine it's real.
No, man. I think in this Dune Part 2, Skarsgård, the Baron, he's the one that for me kind of didn't get as much as in the first one. Like in the first one, to me, he was just so terrifying and he was great. And I just loved seeing all his interactions. In this one, I just wanted more. But there's just so much going on that it kind of sucks that he just kind of got put in the back because, we get to meet his nephew and his nephew's freaking cool. I want to see more of him too.
Austin Butler?
Austin Butler,
yeah. I mean, what did you like about him? Because like his whole persona, especially compared to his brother, is so different. But I really like how they did him here.
Is it his brother?
Oh, who? Dave Bautista?
Dave Bautista's his brother.
Yeah,
that's his brother.
Yeah.
Dave Bautista's the older brother, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, that's what I'm thinking. But with him, it was funny because there's that scene where they kiss each other, the Baron and Ashton Butler like twice, and I'm like, I think again, I'm not trying to make this like a comical episode, like, but it was just funny because I did at the moment tell Raul like, hey, how come what's stopping us from doing like that? But it was funny now that I found out
that we're not in the same location right now. No.
But it was funny to find out that moment was improvised by Ashton. I thought that was pretty cool. Like he just
really,
yeah. So Austin Butler, Austin Butler just improvised that. So I thought that was kind of like cool. Just the idea that like, oh man, if you're Skarsgård, it's like, what do you do? How do you react to that? And obviously, they reacted perfectly.
And.
Yeah, but I can see that if you're not like a well-trained actor, that could catch you off guard and be like, hey, what are you doing, man? Like that's not what the scene calls for.
Sensitivity training. No.
But no, I mean, and that's kind of funny that you say that because I kind of think it plays to the whole dynamic of that family. I don't know. I really loved it in this movie. Like,
I love that. Yeah,
it's just like the way that they kind of act with each other, and then there's like this such of like vile like way that they behave. Even just the fact that like feud or Fade, whatever his name is, like the Austin's character, he's meant to be more of like the crazy one, right? But I just love like some of his like character details in this movie. Like he has like those 3 pet women that he feeds, like he's talking about throughout the movie about feeding his pets. And I just thought that was like so crazy because like even though you have some of those components and like the other ones but in this one, like just I love how dark everything looks. And I think with them, like, making them bald, making their planet, which obviously they have a black sun. So even that scene that we'll talk about later, because it's so beautiful when it's like in their planet, I just love the whole idea of them. Yeah. Like they almost reminded me of like the engineers from Prometheus, where they're just wearing black with like super like white. And then you want to see them as like higher beings because clearly they have like an advanced civilization. They have a whole military power. They kind of know how to harvest spice. They're rich off the spice, but then at the same time they're like animals. Like they're freaking violent, crazy dudes. And I think with Fade, with Austin's character, like he portrayed him really well. Like he was completely psycho and sadistic, and I don't know, I really like the way that he portrayed him. better than Dave Bautista's character, but I guess at this point it didn't even matter because he was supposed to just disappoint you enough that the Baron is clearly taking sides now, and he's kind of putting fate in there as a way to kind of be like, hey, well, you sucked, now it's your turn, like prove it wrong, like prove me wrong.
That's my.
I will say I think a part of the thing about Austin Butler's performance that's different than Dave Bautista is that Austin Butler's performance is more off type than Dave Bautista, because Dave Bautista is a big guy who's played like a mean guy before. But Austin Butler was way different than anything that at least I've seen him in, and he was just so transformed that like it had a bigger impact.
Have any of you seen him in Elvis by any chance?
No,
Ramon. You guys should see him, but I always thought it was funny that after the movie wrapped and it was no longer filming, like he continued to have the Elvis accent, and a lot of people were getting like tired of it. I want to live in the reality where he continued to have the Harkonnen
in this movie.
Yeah,
it was gonna be bad enough with Christopher Walken because I knew that he can't do anything, or not say he can't do anything different, like amazing actor, right? But like you knew they were gonna keep it out of respect. But with like someone like the Emperor, like it works because like I don't know, he could sound whatever he sounds like. But I think yes, when you're playing like the Raban brothers, I feel like you do need that element of you're a different, like more beast like type of human. And I don't know, I just like he just sounded cool. Like he reminded me more, and it's talking because you have Skarsgård here, but he reminds me of Pennywise, like that Skarsgård, and like the same type of like kind of creepiness, and especially because he doesn't have any eyebrows and he's bald. I don't know. That's what I was gonna do for this episode, but then I might regret that later when I can't regrow him for months.
In a weird way, I could see that Pennywise actor auditioning and possibly coming second, maybe getting that role, which would have been really interesting also.
Yeah,
he's really good, dude. All the Skarsgårds are like really good, all of them. But yeah, all of the Harkonnens were awesome. Like, and especially that one scene, like in that stadium. I love what they did with the colors and like the visuals of that. Was brilliant. It seemed like a completely different movie during that period. With like some like artsy type of movie, especially like with the fireworks going off, it seemed like ink blots. Yeah. It was.
Well, that's what we're talking about. Like their planet is supposed to have a black sun, so then therefore, I think that's another reason why like these like details played really greatly, right? Because like when they're in the planet where they're having the whole ceremony, especially for like Fate's birthday, he has this whole coliseum and stuff. Like everything is black and white. Like that was so beautiful to watch because here you are, and it's such a beautiful movie that probably the majority of it was filmed in like IMAX, like type film, and at the end of the day
it was filmed in IMAX.
And then at the end of the day, but you take like color away, and not that we're like that, like we appreciate that, but I'm sure some people are like taken back by it, but it adds so much to it. Like we were talking about Avatar: The Last Airbender, like that scene where they kind of killed the moon, and it's just like that whole idea, like you do this to a movie and you kind of displace us, right? Because all of a sudden here we are, we're in their home planet of the Baron, and it's just kind of like, I don't know, like I really love that it just put you into that world, and then from there on you're kind of meant to like feel or think like they do, and kind of just get more immersion to it. So
there's a couple of movies that have a black and white version of them. One of them being like Logan, for example, or Mad Max,
Godzilla -1,
and Godzilla -1. And it kind of sucks, man, that honestly, once I see a movie in a certain way, like there's really no appeal for me to see like in black and white. But sometimes, like, let's say Godzilla, if I hadn't seen Godzilla, like I would have been interested in seeing it in black and white, but obviously people, if you're not used to it, you kind of rather go towards color. But man, like again, that whole scene with it, maybe because it's just a small portion of the movie, it just left such an impact on me. So I really, like, again, like you guys, I really loved it.
Well,
go ahead.
Well, since we're there, what did you guys think about like how they introduced like him as a character? Because they have him with basically as a birthday celebration, he's doing like a kind of gladiator fight, and then the whole idea that they're supposed to be drugging the people to make it easier for him, but then the Baron challenges him by not like poisoning the last guy and kind of making it like more of a challenge.
That was a doctor, wasn't it, or was it just a regular?
No, it was somebody
Dr.
else.
Yue? No, it wasn't Dr. Yue.
It's funny that they drug they did not drug the smallest guy. I don't know if that was on purpose. Like they showed two
Maybe.
big buff dudes, and then like the small guy is the one that they don't buff. I mean, they don't drug. I wonder if that was like on purpose to be like, oh, they're kind of trying to make it seem like giving them an opponent that would be on equal grounds.
Yeah, I mean, well, not even equal grounds. I think they just don't want to risk it, right? Because they're already doing the
Yeah.
whole like not poisoning him to and you see that it throws him off. Like it's not like he loves the idea in the beginning. He's like, wait, what? But because he's so sadistic that he's like, okay, I got this, and then he just goes like freaking ham on him. But I do think
and
that
he takes off his shield thing.
oh yeah,
Too.
which that's great too, because like
This,
again, we don't get that element in this movie. Like there's a lot of things that they downplayed. I think the whole fighting with shields is like such a huge part of like the other movies and obviously like the books, but like even to the point where, and I think Tony mentioned this on our last Dune episode, but like the whole thing with the Atreides is that they do have a secret weapon that in this movie, like these movies, they don't even talk about those weapons. And it's just kind of funny because you take even something like as simple of a shield and then you remove that and it's like, oh, this is serious. Like all of a sudden, like he means business. And I don't know, it's just a small little nice detail that the removal of something that we don't even see that much throughout the movie. It's great.
dude, were the Bene Gesserit kind of crazy to think that they could control him, at a certain point better than they could Paul? It was just like,
Oh, with Fade.
yeah, that's the one thing that I'm like, are you guys nuts? Are you guys drinking from the the water of life? Because I don't know why you would think this psychopath would be more controllable than somebody like Paul.
I think it's with them. The way that I kind of see them is that they try to look through every situation and try to get an advantage in all situations. In the sense of like contingency plans and all of that stuff, because they probably, that's not their primary goal, but like they have to try to figure out like if this is going to happen, we got to figure out a way to control them or whatever. And then kind of like once they have like everything on the board, they want to try to direct things in the way that is most advantageous to them, but still kind of keeping in mind that like if this doesn't work, then we have this other plan and this other plan and this other plan.
Yeah.
That's the type of organization that I see them as, where they try to get in every single angle, where they try to have babies from like every prominent family, and try to find the flaws in each person and stuff like that. That way that they're able to control. And in this case, it was like the sexual part or whatever with Fight.
I mean,
Yeah.
the one complaint that I've been having, and it has nothing to do with the movie, it has to do with the people that are like, oh, you guys are dumb. You guys think Paul's the hero. Wait till the second one where all these millions or whatever people are gonna die or whatever because Paul's whatever. Like, I don't care. It's just, I'm watching Paul's story as it is, just based on part 1 and part 2, and I honestly think the Harkonnens, like, they had to go, man. There's no reality where I feel like you living the Harkonnens alive or to do their thing doesn't result in possibly like a worst case scenario. Like, I just feel like by completely wiping them, I don't see how there's a negative to it. So I'm like, I'm all in for the
Harkonnens.
Harkonnens. Like, I just don't see them like ever, existing. I don't see a reason for them to exist, honestly.
Yeah.
I just think they're like the most terrible like beings.
I mean, I did like that you touched on the whole like what people are thinking about like Paul Atreides and this reiteration. I think like to Raul's point, like I think that the movie's way bigger than Paul Atreides, right? And like again, just even if you look like a small summary of the books, and you kind of have to unless you're gonna read them all. But it's like Paul Atreides is only the very beginning of everything, and he's not even like as important to the rest of the story. But like the Bene Gesserits are there the whole way through, and I think with like having someone like Fade, like Austin's character, to be like another option, I think is just like Raul said, just part of their scheme, right? Because if you even think about it, what I love about this movie is that the Reverend Mother, like the head Bene Gesserit here, like she doesn't even want Paul Atreides to be like the Kiswat's Haderach or whatever they call it, like the one of the all-knowing power. She's still so opposed, like not only from that the initial scene in the Dune 1 where she was kind of like testing Jessica and being like, oh, like you shouldn't have had him, all this stuff, this is dangerous, this is irresponsible. But it's not that they're not like I don't know. It's like they want that person for them, but Paul's not it. Like they know it, or they have a feeling that Paul's not the right one. And I think to your point, Carlos, about people like right now and the backlash saying that Paul's not like the hero in this movie. I don't think I don't think that's what it is, and I don't think it's about being a villain. Like he is a hero. He's just not like a. He's more of a tragic hero. Like right, like his goal is to start this like revolt, like this rebellion against the emperor and against the control of spice, even though he does ultimately end up using it for his own good. I mean, for his own sake. So he does become more villainous, or he becomes more like what is it called, interested. But I think that's part of his development. Like I think by the end of this movie, you're supposed to not dislike Paul, but you're supposed to see like, okay, this is like a Game of Thrones type of shit. Like Paul's out to get the throne. That's what he wants. Like he doesn't care about Chani at that point. He has, well, yeah, and I think that's like another cool thing. You see the scene where he's like now, like after he takes the water of life, and he's like, I see like all these possibilities, but there's like one direct way that's gonna like kind of be the best solution. And that's kind of where you start seeing that beautiful relationship with him and Chani start to like kind of break apart, because then he knows at that point that Chani's more of a tool or like a pawn to his overall like goal, because she's not as relevant as they thought. So anyway, yeah, I can see why people start like disliking him, but I think it's just part of it. Like he's just a guy that you ultimately don't like, but not because he's a bad guy, just because his like aspirations are solely power and trying to kind of rule it all, so
you know, Ramones, I was watching that whole idea play out, that it's like, hey, I can see different scenarios and I can navigate to the one where it results in a victory. It kind of, Ro, you won't get the reference, but it kind of reminded me of like that Rick and Morty episode when Morty has the, like, I think they're like not diamonds, but they're more like crystals. The crystals.
Oh goodness!
And he's able to foresee the future, and he's navigated it in a way that'll take him to where he wants to go. So I wonder if it's like similar with Paul. Like, can he constantly see like, oh shit, if I take a right, it's gonna go here, but I have to go left to go this way. And it's just like, I don't know, man, that idea would probably drive me nuts, and I would probably end up like putting a bullet in my head in 5 minutes after like having to deal with all these different possibilities happening at the same time.
And see, that's what the burden that like you understand, because you have other references to reference it. But I think any viewer watching this would see him more as a bad guy, instead of understanding like the heavy responsibility that he feels like he has, because he does see everything at once. He reminded me of like freaking Aaron and like freaking Attack on Titan. I mean, it's just like that idea, right? Like once he is able to connect to like the past and the present, and he kind of knows it all, like he doesn't want the rumbling to happen. He just has to make it happen. Like it's a way for the world to kind of learn what's the next step. And the story of like Dune in general is not just about Dune. It's about like the overall like humanity that's spread throughout the galaxy. And like, dude, like you hit it right on the point that it's like you can't even imagine what that would be like. I mean, dude, I don't think we can.
Everybody's stealing from Dune, man. Like everybody's just.
Well, yeah, I mean, Dune was first, and you know what's crazy? Like I guess in the
60s,
in the 60s, I guess in one of the books he even loses his eyesight, and he can only, and this is not a spoiler because I mean it is kind of, but like in the sense like read the books, but it's like on book 4 of like 6, but it's like or
I'm not gonna get
2
there.
or something. But anyway, it's like he ends up being even blind, and the only way that he kind of basically does his thing is because he can see everything. And so it's just like that whole idea of him being like a superior being is like, that's what I'm saying. Like right now watching this movie, you can't even imagine like what kind of person he's going to become, and he's not the hero. So that's like the one thing to know. And I like that the movie does that. Like you feel at the end, I'm like, wait a minute, this guy's not the guy that we thought he was going to be. Like he's clearly like a false messiah. I don't know.
And to kind of backtrack a little bit to anyone that hasn't read the books and knows some of this background. So the Kwisatz Haderach is kind of like a prophecy that the Bene Gesserits have kind of been trying to get to, because they're not supposed to have any male children at all. They're only supposed to have female children, and then once they get older, they also become like part of this group, the Bene Gesserits. But Jessica kind of like went against what she was supposed to do and had Paul anyway, and then to her, Paul is supposed to be this like prophesized kind of like the Messiah kind of thing, which is kind of the same thing with the Fremen, that they saw him as the Messiah, which the Bene Gesserit kind of instilled into that
Created, yeah.
culture. Yeah, because they it's kind of like when they went to Arrakis, they were kind of like whole like instilling their culture and their religious beliefs into them. So I love how many different references this whole story has with so much of like this world, because like the Fremen are obviously like indigenous people to this desert land, and then you have this group of like religious people that come and then start like prophesizing and evangelizing and kind of like trying to instill their beliefs or a belief system into these people, and then they start believing it, and then now they have this prophecy of this like Messiah that Paul Atreides ends up kind of symbolizing for them. Whether he is or not, who knows? Because it might have been true, might have not been true. Who knows with the water of life and spice and mentats and all that stuff. But
Well, Ramon, one of the characters that definitely has been probably the standout of Dune 2, which we have in part 2, which we haven't talked about, is Javier Bardem,
Oh
Stellan.
goodness,
God.
yes.
So it's just I'm already kind of getting
Oscar,
sick of it
better-
after a week, just because I've seen I've seen so many memes already that I'm like, all right, the joke's over. Like let's call it
Never.
time of
Never.
death. But it's just his character was really funny in this part 2, and I was not expecting that at all.
I don't know. He like No Country for Old Men was like one of my first movies with him, and I love the character he plays there. This is Stilgard reminds me of just like the fanatic, like he's that fanatic, right? Like he's in craze,
Mhm.
like, and not like in a bad way. He's just like so much believes that, and I love that in this movie they split up like the Freemen into like two sections, like the North and the South, because like again, I think it's just add more to the world and the whole religious and like religion and beliefs and how that divides depending on regions and where you live and where you're from. But I love that he's from the South, so he's such a fanatic. He such believes in the, what is it called, the other word, the lisan, like lisan al gaib, so the
Mhm.
actual like Messiah, like him and the mother. And so like to me that fuels the story so much more, because again, for the people that are really realizing what the story's about, it's not about Paul Atreides being the hero like we talked. It's more about him becoming this like Messiah that in reality he doesn't like. We don't even believe that he's the real one, or we just are skeptical. But you need someone like Stilgard to try to convince you even more. Like you need him to be, because Chani doesn't. Chani is so against the idea of him being the Messiah, and not because
Paul
like
doesn't.
yeah, Paul doesn't even, right? Like, and even I feel like even Jessica, like I feel like even the mom, like she wants him to be, but she's just kind of like rolling with the whole Bene Gesserit like training and the fact that she already has the son, so she needs to justify that she had him. But I still got, again, just does a great job and really cheering for him.
Yeah, with Jessica, it's all like fake it till you make it kind of thing. With
Yeah,
with the
exactly.
homicide.
It feels like it. Like,
Well-
like how do you miss that? Like it
Well,
feels like
yeah.
it.
Can we talk real quick? Paul is the
No.
one. Like I'm telling you, Paul is the one. Like at this point, you're watching the movie, and of
He's
course
Neo.
they're trying to fake it. He's Neo. They're trying to, like you said, Jessica's trying to like fake it. Paul's like, I'm not it. But just based on how everything's playing out, just the luck of this kid, he is. I mean, he is. Whether the whole prophecy was invented or not, or was spread so that they could put somebody in a place where they could control him, like the Bene Gesserit. I feel like Paul overall, like it's just like he's the one, right? Like that's it. Like he's the one. He's the Jesus. You accidentally were trying to create like a fake Jesus, but you accidentally create like a real one.
Well, and I mean, I think that's what I'm saying. Like it's like I think they're just rolling with it, but it works, because I think the ultimate mission, at least for this, like for like this Messiah, is to simply free the Fremen and to like free Dune and to kind of like stop this like over like powering thing from the Emperor. And so I think for that, like for that note, like on that note, I think it's true. Like yes, he does become that sort of like figure that they need to start carrying, I guess, more war acts against the Emperor, because they eventually nuke him, or nuke like that the spice producing factory of the city. But it's just like, I don't know, like I think at the end, I'm not saying like he's not, but I think it's not like what we want it to be, or it's not what they think he's gonna be. He's not like the altruistic Messiah.
Okay, I'm gonna put it in more like plain terms. Let's pretend that you tell me that Jesus, the next Jesus, I'm gonna know it's him because he's gonna be able to walk on water, and it's all made up. But then, I meet the next Jesus, and you're telling me that's not him. But then I see him walk on water, and you're still telling me like it's not him. It's just like we made up this prophecy; it's not real. But it's like the guy's walking on water. What else do you want for me to believe that that's not him? He's legitimately walking on water. It's just like no matter what.
Water into wine. Like how many fishes are gonna come out of this basket?
Yeah. So that's the thing. Even like when Paul does drink the water of life, and it is with the prophecy that Zendaya's character has to revive him. It's like, okay, how much like do you need for me to like I'm like Stilgar, like I'm ready to follow this kid. Like come and pick me up.
But I think maybe also, again, just to kind of keep playing with that argument, I think what's like funny is that the Messiah to the Fremen is different for the Messiah that the Bene Gesserits want, or at least that idea, right? Because I think he's more of the Bene Gesserit Messiah because he's starting this like war, he's starting this like chaos and destruction, and even though it's not going their way, because clearly the Reverend Mother wanted someone that she could control, and clearly Paul's not it. So I think what it is like, yeah, he gets created, he rolls with it, things start happening that, yes, of course he is like the chosen one in this sense, but I think the ultimate goal for him is not what they want it to be. Right, because like even I saw a detail that I love about this movie too is that he has like his father's ring, right? He has Leto's ring, and how many times like he hides it from the Fremen? Not like, oh, they're not supposed to know that it exists, like they know who he is. But as he's trying to assume this role of the Messiah, as he's trying to assume this role of like once he buys into it and he's like, all right guys, I am like, let me try to convince you, like I am the Messiah, follow me, we're gonna attack like the Harkonnens, we're gonna go after the Emperor. But like I love that like towards the end of the movie when he puts that ring on, it's when he's being like, okay, at the end of the day, I saw like my future, I am meant to be a ruler, I am meant to be more than just like someone's like religious like Messiah. And I think that's just like where I guess it differs. It's like he is, but he's using it for his own gain. He does something different than people expect him to do. Like he's just not freeing them. He's doing it for his own good. Yeah,
totally. At the end, it's no longer about like freeing the planet. It's more about like now you're doing something completely different. Because I do feel like there is another. He went immediately to like, oh, the house has refused, so let's start this war. I mean, though, like they could have been a little bit more negotiating on the table, man. Like, hey, let me catch you up to what happened to me and what got me to be in this spot right now. And then, maybe let's talk whether you do want war after I tell you my story. But I just feel like, man, they immediately, and I think that's kind of what upset you about the movie, right, Ramon? That it's like the movie ends and they're all flying to space.
Well, no, that's not what upset me is the fact that they're leading on to there's a third movie. And I don't love that because this is supposed to be the end of the first book. And even though it is the end of the first book, and even though like the 1984 movie ends basically the same way, like there's still something unsettling about like, oh man, but there's more. And so yes, like to me it was not disappointing. It's exciting because I do want to watch a third movie with Anya Taylor kind of being more of like, well, his sister, right? But even in the 1984 movie, she's already born. Like she's a big part of like the last part. Yeah, she's and then she's already a big part of like the end of the story. Like she even kills the Baron instead of being Paul Atreides who kills the Baron. Yeah, and she's a little girl. She's like a little girl, like who speaks like a freaking
but because Jessica took the water of life when she was pregnant, then the girl kind of got like all the knowledge and memories of like the ancestors or whatever all at once. So like when she was born, she already had like a whole like full like generations of knowledge.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So I mean, like I think it's just a weird ending. Not the her part. Like we could talk about that, like his sister part of it later, because I do like that idea. But like I think just the way that this book ends or this movie ends is just the way that it's supposed to, and it is unsettling because you're like, oh man, like that's it. Like now there is a war, but now I don't get to see it. And also that's okay, cool. But I don't know, man. I still just really like what the movie's about ultimately. And I know we haven't talked much about like certain other details in the movies, but like going back talking about how he defeated the Emperor, like let's go back to the idea of like when the Emperor was introduced and his daughter was introduced. That's another like character, like both of them that I wanted to see.
Florence
right?
Pugh?
Yeah. Well, she's great, and like the role that she plays, where she knows she's gonna like again some Game of Thrones shit, because it's supposed to be like that whole idea of like they're gonna end up being married because it benefits the houses, because it benefits Paul Atreides, and I don't know. That's
He
what
was
like
gonna
this,
try to marry the Harkonnen, the Fade.
Fade.
Yeah. But they also thought that Paul Atreides was dead.
Yeah. That's a great reveal. Like when they're still talking about the freaking Moahai, what's his name? The other name that he has all the names, Muzul and Muad'Dib. But yeah, when they're talking about Muad'Dib and they're just kind of like, oh, like he's like a Fremen leader and he's like doing this and he's kind of interjecting with like our spice like production and all this stuff, but they don't have a clue who he is, and that's pretty cool because then once they do find out it's Paul Atreides, it's like gasp, like.
I mean, I'm kind of glad that we got the reveal that the reason why the Emperor kind of killed, the Duke was because kind of like the witches told him to do it, not necessarily because he kind of saw him as like like as a son, and I was kind of like, man, you see this guy as a son and he's kind-hearted, like why not marry Florence to him, or if he's too old and she doesn't want to do it to Paul.
Leto? Is it Leto or Leto?
Leto.
Like,
well, I think that's how they say it, but Leto.
Like there could have been an arrangement there, man, and you could have probably had the most successful legacy ever. And I don't know, man. I just don't like the fact that he killed him, but I guess we don't get the story if that doesn't happen. So
no, but I mean, I do like the whole Game of Thrones scheming scenario, like that whole. I think that's what makes these movies good because we didn't live through that. Like now we just got to deal with like old men in government who decide what we get to do or can't do.
Oh my god!
But in reality, like imagine living in a world where like it is decided by
body.
like. Imagine living in a world where like kings and lords like have like a lot of fate, but the nice thing of like more it's like they have more control over your fate, but they're more like they're smaller faction, like you belong to a country or you belong to like a world, a planet in this instance. And I just love that world because then you do have families that feud and you do have like different guilds and things like that, which we got to talk about the Spice Guild because I
wanted to talk about them.
I still don't love that this reiteration of the Dune movies didn't have the Spice Guild, and
they were in part one.
Yeah, but not like
the Spice Guild.
Not
the way that we want to see them.
Well, not the pilot, like the actual the pilots and everything else like that. Yeah, but I think like they downplayed
like the Mentats and then you mean the actual pilots?
The space guilds are the ones that they transport,
control
the ones
spice.
who pay. Yeah,
got it.
But also as the guild itself, they're the ones that basically actually control all the transport, and they play such a significant role because at the end of the day, like everything that's happening with the Emperor, with like Leto Atreides and everyone else, all has to do with the spice production, right? Mm-hmm. And I think this movie just focuses more on Dune, the actual planet, and the Fremen and everything going on there. But we kind of forget that the outer worldly thing going on is still all revolving around the spice production and the Spice Guild trying to maintain control. So therefore, like they put more pressure on the Emperor for the Emperor to step in and take these actions against the Atreides. And I think that's what you're missing when you say something like that, where you don't see that the Emperor didn't have a better solution for Leto and what they can do to like make that work. Well, they just want to get rid of him because they see him as a threat to the whole production. So I don't know. It's just cool. It's a lot too.
Yeah, he probably would have gone if he would have gotten control of Dune. He would have eventually been like, "Oh, we got to get these people their water. Like we got to start, flooding the desert and actually bring them happiness." Because he is kind of that kind of leader. And man, it's just if you're a good guy, Game of Thrones or even this, you're not gonna last.
No. And you just mentioned the
last
whole
guys
thing
finish last.
Don't I know it, Ro?
I don't even know what that means between you guys, but gross. You guys in your freaking popcorn buckets, man. You guys in your popcorn buckets.
We'll be bonded forever.
Yeah. No, I mean, like I don't know. I mean, what? Like obviously there was so many other significant things, but again, just like the whole thing with the water of life too. That was like a great like idea, right? Especially the whole fact that like he's supposed to not be able to endure that it's only women that can endure it. Yeah. But then that whole thing, like, well, after he takes it, like he does, and Chani brings him back, like he does become
Spring of the Desert.
I love the whole thing with the names too, and even the whole thing with like his name, and how it's like the desert rat. but also
the mouse.
Yeah, the desert mouse. Yes. But anyways,
Muad'Dib.
I like the
looked it
whole
up.
idea that after he, I like the idea the whole after like he basically gets reawakened in his like new state. Like that's when he starts becoming more of that.
Resurrected.
This resurrected, of course, 100% resurrected, and then he becomes the all foreseeing. I'm gonna get my way by stepping on Shani and marrying the princess and everything else.
I mean, I do love all the technology, man. I think I already mentioned that earlier, but even like the guns and the way the rifles can shoot down these planes or these bigger than life like mechanical things. It's so cool, man. Like especially because sometimes you forget that this is a very advanced world that you're watching, especially because you're following the Fremen the whole time. But even they have like some really great weaponry. So I love that about the movie, especially like what are the helicopters called in this world? The ones that look like freaking
like dragonflies, yeah.
Like dragonflies. Like I like the gunman, the way he shot, because it was like he shot like in pellets. Like here's a bunch of pellets, here's a bunch of pellets.
Shotgun,
it was just so freaking cool, man. Like I'm like, do we have that? do we have that in our world?
Shotguns. Like, it's called sawed-off shotgun, and you tape it to a helicopter, and then when you're driving it, someone's got to like reach out.
That's what I'm talking about. Like put it on an airplane, on a helicopter, or whatever you have to put it on.
No, and like you mentioned that, and I think it like I kept on thinking the same thing about the Fremen, how like because you see them as desert tribes, like and desert people, like you just like I guess you treat like you assume that they're not like highly developed, but then you start seeing their weapons, their rifles, like everything, and you're like, holy crap, like the technology you have is like pretty great. And it just kind of goes to show you that they're not necessarily in the situation of like being in the desert because they're not resourceful or because they don't have the technology. Is just the whole planet is a fucking desert. So it's like you develop within that and you have your own things on there. But fun fact, did you guys know that there was actually more technology like AI and androids in this world? But they already had a whole revolt and that they exterminated all the robots because
that's why they need the spice for the people to be able to move like interstellarly.
Yeah, and then also it kind of gives you a glimpse as to why there is like a certain type of technology, but not like digital computers or like big old like I don't know, like big screen TVs like everywhere, So it's I love that idea that it does feel like it's old, but it's so far in the future that it's like dystopian.
I forget what the guy in part one, who he is or what he's called, but the one that can kind of like come up with calculations on the spot, like he's kind of like something like that, right? Like each house has like a member like that. Yeah, Mentat. So it's like, that's really cool for sure. Something we didn't see too many of it that was kind of referenced in the first movie is like most of the Fremen have like this knife. Is it made out of the worm? Is that what the knife is made out of?
Yeah, it's a tooth of the worm. Yeah,
tooth of the worm. Fun fact, Ramon, as you mentioned it, you have to keep that blade on you at all times because if you kind of like leave it somewhere, it would just disintegrate over time. Like it would just start disintegrating. So you have to keep it in your body, like within your body. So that's kind of cool.
Oh, I love that, man.
Yeah,
I love all these little fun facts about this world, but it's
Chris knife.
The Chris knife, yes.
Oh man, can we have Chris knives?
We can. You can buy a replica of it. I don't know if it's going to come from an actual worm. But
I don't know why one of these
be made out of bone.
I don't know why one of these weapons. The closest I come to having a weapon in my house is probably like my Sasuke sword.
I have some weapons.
Okay.
Some guns.
But some guns.
No, and to kind of go to the thing that Carlos and I were arguing about at the worm movie. So Paul Atreides and his cousin were fighting. So Ramon, what did you think of the fight first off?
Oh, like the final fight with them?
Yeah.
I mean, I like the fight. The only thing I didn't love is when freaking Paul did that random roll in the middle of the air out of nowhere. That just seemed a little weird.
It was so cool.
Yeah, but it was such a weird random move because I'm like, you could have just sidestepped or done something different. This dude does like all the way through. But I don't know. What are you guys insinuating? Like what about it?
Okay, so the thing that we kept talking about, we were trying to figure out how it was that Paul Atreides stabbed fight, because
You don't see it.
so
Yeah.
yeah, you don't see it. The camera's panned up like too high, and then they each have their own knife. So Paul Atreides has his Chris knife, and then Fade has the Emperor's knife, and then they're like fighting and knifing, and then Paul gets stabbed,
Yeah.
and he has a knife like on this side of his stomach of his abdomen, and then Fade has the other knife that's kind of like that Paul grabbed.
Mm-hmm.
So did Paul pull out another knife? Did he pull out the knife that was stabbed into him and stabbed the Fade, or what happened, Ramon?
So because what happened? Like I'm the expert again.
Yes.
Because we watched it in theaters and I haven't had a chance to rewatch it. I was wondering that too because during the fight, when I saw like Paul holding the original knife, I didn't think it was a Chris knife. I kept on like looking at it, and it didn't look like a Chris knife, and I don't know if I missed it or it was flashed too soon. So by the point it gets to the end, and he does have like the actual Chris knife in him, I just thought he had two knives. But to me, that wasn't even the point. To me, it's like they played it off like he cheated, and I don't know how you guys feel about that idea because if you're trying to figure it out, that's kind of like what I felt about it.
Wait. So since we recreated it, and I told Raul, this is the way I feel that it happened. I do feel like I'm the one that's like backing up this theory that, okay, Paul's grabbing this knife, because he's about to get stabbed with it. I think he purposely, and again, you don't see any of this, so we have to that's why we have to reignite it, act it, and talk about it.
Yeah.
But I think what happens is that he lets the other guy stab him right here. And he does grab that knife that's in currently he stabbed with, and he pulls it out and stabs him with that knife. So that's what I think happened. There's only two knives, and one of them that he uses to stab him was the one that he pulled out of his like stomach.
Yeah.
So what I thought might have happened, like, my first thought was like, oh, he grabbed another knife, like from. I don't think
there was a third knife.
From well because like before the fight started, I think there was like a camera pan to Zendaya's Chris knife or whatever. So I thought like, oh, like foreshadowing that he's gonna use that knife for some reason.
Yeah.
So that's what that was my first impression. But then I got kind of confused because I don't think it was a Chris knife that he stabbed him with.
Well, that's what I'm. No, I think it was the Chris knife he stabbed him with, but I don't think that's what he started. Like that's what I'm saying. Like
that's why you gotta show the damn shot.
Well, yes, but I'm saying to the point. Like if I was watching it at home, I'd be rewinding. I'd be like focusing up, looking at like the knives, right? But I think, like I said, to my point, I think by the end of it, I almost felt like I was like tricked by Paul Atreides, and I think that's what they wanted you to feel like. I think if anything, that's maybe it was done on purpose because you do sit there and you're like, wait, did he like just cheat somehow? Like, right? Exactly. Well, that's what it feels like. And I think to me, that kind of plays more with the story of here's Paul Atreides really trying to freaking take that power for himself, even to the point where it's a possibility that he might have cheated. And maybe he didn't, right? But that's what I think that's what it's trying to do. Until I can watch it at home and rewind and really like observe it. Like to me, I'm kind of like with you, Raul, where I thought it was the third knife somehow. But I think that whole, like the way that Carlos explained it and assuming that they're being like, what is it called, loyal or being just playing just, I think them each having one knife, Carlos's like scenario kind of makes sense. But I think they were maybe meant to make you like confused about it. And I think it was supposed to be like Paul, like out of nowhere, it was like did this, and I'm like, was that even legal? Like, is that legal? Like, hold on, like, let's review the play. Let's go.
No, definitely. I can't wait for there to be like a clear answer so we can kind of let it rest, that argument about what did happen. But
you know who we had talked about, and I wanted to mention before we get towards the end. We never talk about Gurney, right? Like freaking Josh Brolin's character. Obviously, I like that he was still alive because, like, you don't get Duncan Idaho here. Like, maybe you'll get him in the future, which I know you do. But it's like with Gurney, it was good to have him for me because he's still trying to instill the military, like, revenge, like do it for your father, do it for your country, or like I guess not country, do it for your like family, your
Your clan.
your clan, your everything. And I that's so contradictory to what now Paul's being like, no, I'm doing it for my people, which is not the Fremen, because I'm the Messiah. And it's just like this weird, like, he's like, what are you talking about? You're Paul Atreides. You're like a skinny little dude. You're like son of a duke. Yeah, you're the Duke, and then he's trying to like really ground him into his actual responsibility. And then here you have like Paul Atreides like floating up with this big head of like, yeah, I am the Messiah. Let's go, like follow me.
Yeah.
But I do think that he ultimately like, I like this what he does play into it, because as you have someone like Stilgard who's like, oh my god, he is the Messiah. You have Gurney who's like, man, he's still like the Duke, and he still has the responsibility to his family, to his crest, to everything. And again, just because we're talking about that type of movie, it's such a good dynamic to have, like, you know.
Dude, if I was Timothée Chalamet's like agent, I would be like, dude, you gotta dish the pretty boy persona, and you gotta like buff up, you gotta grow up, you gotta have like a Dev Patel moment where it's like, wait, that used to be Timothée Chalamet, now he's all like completely different. Because I find it hard to believe sometimes that he could kick ass, even though he did prove it to me in this movie. In the first one, it's a little bit less believable. In this one, I definitely believed it, but I just need that dude overall to start like being like, stop playing these younger roles and actually start like
he looks so young.
I know Tom Holland has the same damn problem too.
Yeah. But Tom Holland's ripped, like he like bulked up a little bit for like Spider-Man. And I think with Paul, like, well, it's Paul Atreides, with Timothée Chalamet, like the whole thing, it's like he does look like in the first movie. I remember the scene when he's talking to Duncan, and Duncan's making fun of him being like so little, and then you see this side view of him, and he does have like a very petite, like slender body. And yeah, then you think about some of the scenes in this movie when they're like freaking rolling around and they're fighting the harvesters, other Harkonnens and the Harkonnens and their harvesters and all these things. And he's such a badass. And I'm like, dude, like, when did you get those skills? Like, because I know he can fight, obviously, but I think part of it is that he has been developing, he's been studying or working with the Fremen already. And so, like, I do like his evolution. I think, like, and I've heard it, so I can't say that I'm the one that came up with the idea of me just repeating it, but the idea of this movie is about transformation also makes a lot of sense, because it is Paul like really transforming into different things to ultimately be like what he wants to be, which, you know, the ruler of the spice.
Because I know most people, when they talk about him, they see him as like, you know, the next Leonardo DiCaprio, like he's following his path. And I see him more as like Christian Bale, man. Like, let him gain some weight and then let him lose it, and, you know, let him transform himself into like the actor he wants to be. But I just don't think, like, again, I'm kind of like, I want to see him and do more. I haven't seen Willy Wonka, but I feel like I'm gonna watch Willy Wonka and I'm gonna get that same feeling, like, oh man, like I just wish you were a little bit different, you know. I don't want to get the same flavor every time I'm eating ice cream, you know.
I like that one. I like that. It took me a while to process. I'm like, yep, yeah, you're right. I do love me some ice cream, but I do like some variety too.
Let's talk about the worm riding, man.
Okay.
In the beginning. Love that scene.
How was it with your buckets? How was the writing? Did you need the bucket?
I kind of wish we had a 4D movie theater so we could really experience it. Sad that we don't, man. I would pay like $50 to. I don't care how much a ticket is for that.
Well, how cool when it was when he goes to summon the worm and he ends up summoning like the grandpa, like biggest, fattest worm ever. Like, that was a cool scene. Like, given that it was Zendaya who kind of gave him the tip of like, go further, like find like the deeper, like what is it called, like the echo, I guess, when he was knocking on the sand. But that was a cool thing too that aided to more of this Messiah talk, because Stilgard right away was like, oh my god, it's the grandpa one. It's like, he is freaking.
That's what I'm saying. That's the whole thing about Jesus walking the water again. It's like you're seeing him summon the biggest worm
right away.
And it's a prophecy. Yeah, it's just it's like, oh man.
Yeah.
It's a sign.
I think it's so cool, but realistically, like, and you know, they're kind of like writing, like they're controlling them, because like at the last few scenes when they're fighting, like they're clearly guiding them and kind of where they're going to attack.
That's cool,
man. It's so cool. Like, I mean, you have it obviously in Star Wars because they kind of copied Dune, but then even like in Beetlejuice, like the whole idea of the sandworms. Like, I love the idea of a creepy worm that can crawl in the sand you can't see. And Tremors, right? Like, Tremors is the same damn thing. And then to be able to harness the power, like if I could ride a freaking fart blaster Tremor, if you guys ever seen the Tremor movies, but fly on it, that'd be pretty cool. So I love the idea that in this movie they're riding these giant ass worms, and they're ginormous. They're like huge.
No,
So it's that whole little like it's so great to see.
no, that makes sense, man. Because part of me was wondering, like when they ride them, I'm like, well, what else in the worm? You just go underground because most of the time when you see them from a distance, they're always underground. They're not like you don't see the top. So it's like it makes sense that the way they're grabbing them and pulling them, it's like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool, man.
I wonder.
Yeah. Because it kind of looks like the hooks are grabbing onto these like slits that they have in the skin.
I thought about this as I grew up with horses, right? So it's like, how much pain do you think they go through when they're being ridden? Because it has to be, but it has to be.
It might just be discomfort, or it could be pain.
It has to be discomfort or some kind of pain because you can't. You're telling me with two like little
right.
hooks, you're gonna control a big fat worm. So there has to be like enough, because it's not by pure strength that they're like maneuvering the worm. So there has to be a little bit of discomfort or a little bit of something that it causes them. And I just love that idea because this is still like a wild animal. And it's more of like a religious, very significant animal to them. But at the end of the day, they also use it very functional, like in a functional way. And I don't know, that's pretty cool. And then I love the scenes where they're like a whole mass of them are on top of the worm, like when they're all traveling. And you have like the Reverend Mother, like Rebecca, you have her on there, and she has her whole like little canopy and everything like that. It's like it's so cool.
That kind of made me question, like, how do you get so many people on the worm? Which, again, I don't know.
Well, that's where it starts getting weird because then it's like, I mean, how do you halt it, right? Like, how do you make it stop? And then you're like, all right, hold up, everybody, get on. It's not like everybody's running to it, especially when you do have that whole scene with Jessica in the little canopy thing. It's not like they ran.
Pregnant Jessica.
It's not like they
threw it on
through the whole thing, and then they're freaking jump on there. And they're like, okay, we got you.
How do you
do another pass? We missed some.
How do you guys feel about the final fight at the end? Was it too short for you guys? I heard that's a complaint that it was kind of like.
I thought it was good.
Quick. Like, you get the nukes at the mount.
That one.
Well, that whole battle scene. Like you get the nukes, then the worms come, then Zendaya's character comes, and like. Which was really cool. That to me was probably like one of my favorite parts when she comes in and she starts like slitting all these dudes, which was kind of also goes with part one where Paul was seeing that vision of himself and it actually ended up being her. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
But like, did you guys need more? Or was that satisfactory enough for you?
It was realistic.
I think throughout the movie, but.
Yeah, I mean, no, throughout the movie, yes, but I think it was realistic because the moment that you involve nukes. Which is another cool thing that they had the whole nuke stash, like a stash of
the
nukes.
arsenal,
the arsenal, and then ultimately they find that, and I'm like, well, game over, because like, what are you gonna use to defend yourself against nukes? Like, you can't do anything. And I think in any kind of a big shield like that, but they hit the refinery, so that was kind of cool. But I don't know. I think in any type of like war, especially like fictional, but it's like you assume that you're involving nukes, it has to be over pretty quick. Like. You're not going to survive that. And if they really wanted to, they could have just hit the freaking like castle or the main building and just got rid of all of them. But clearly that wasn't the goal. So I think it was just very like forceful, quick intimidation, like really good, like frontline tactics, like just go all out right in the beginning. And it worked because with the worms, with the nukes, like what do you do?
It was Paul's grandfather that put the nukes there, right?
No, I think it was a dad. I think they brought him with them from.
They brought him when they took over the.
But it was like top
planet.
Secret, so nobody knew about them. Okay,
except for Josh Brolin, where it was like the general.
You said his grandfather, and how did you guys like the whole finding out that the Baron's his grandfather, his other grandfather?
Mm-hmm. Like, dude, I was so not expecting that, and I thought it was cool and kind of weird, and it puts the Bene Gesserit kind of like in a different light.
Yeah,
I wish it was more of an impactful moment to it. I think it kind of just kind of went quick, and if you didn't really pay attention, you were like, "Wait, what?" So.
It reminded me of the scene when he told his mother that she was pregnant because she was like, wait, what? Like, how can you possibly know that? I barely know that. And then this time too, he totally like told her and she's like, wait, what? Like the Baron's my like, so it was like this whole, like, it should have been a bigger reveal and it was like quick. And it wasn't until later when he does kill his grandpa and he's like, goodbye, grandfather. But I don't know. I love that he does come of Harkonnen blood.
Yeah,
because it just makes a bigger beast out of him.
I think I think there's a line in the movie where it's like, "Let's be Harkonnens,"
Harkonnen,
because
yeah,
and then
Yeah.
like I like how he told Ashton, well, not what's his name? He told him like, "Hey
Austin Butler,
cousin,"
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Austin Butler. He's like, "Hey cousin" or "cousin, let's do this" or whatever. And it's like,
He's
"Oh,
like,
okay,
really? Okay.
yeah."
I
Them
don't
two would
know.
make a really cool team, actually. But
Yeah,
obviously, yeah, that's not gonna happen.
that's a
But
whole
yeah,
different type of movie. I mean, one thing
Not
that I
with that
wanted to touch
attitude.
on, one thing that I did want to touch on, like I know because we're getting pretty close to the end, was the whole thing with the sister. So that's something that, like, again, it didn't bother me how this movie ended because, again, it's similar to how the other movie ended. It's how the book kind of ends, where it leaves off him defeating the emperor, and then basically the war starts, right? But what I wasn't crazy about was the whole thing with the daughter, with his sister. Even though like the 1984 movie is very comical, even in the sci-fi 3-episode series, it's pretty comical because she is a little girl that acts like an adult, just kind of creepy. She just runs around and she's just like blue eyes, like staring. And like I think that would have been too goofy in this movie. Like I don't know how you would have done like a young girl to be like that. I mean, I guess you could make her menacing and creepy looking, but I don't know. I think
Like
it would
in
have taken away.
Twilight.
Yeah, but see, oh my god, exactly, horrible. But it would have taken away from it so much. And at first, I'm like, oh, I don't love that they're basically already making you want that third movie that's a little bit separate, but still continuation of the story. But what I really appreciated, I loved the whole fact that they're talking to the baby the whole time. Like,
Yeah.
if anything, that makes you feel like she's gonna be super powerful, which we kind of later know we show somewhat is because of everything she's being born into. But that's a
Dude,
crazy relationship of like her, Paul talking, and the mother, and yeah,
dude, I so thought that Jessica was going crazy after drinking the water of life. I thought like, oh, she's gonna start going crazy. This is like a bad side effect. It's not going very
yeah,
well, and then eventually whatever. Because obviously I haven't like finished the book,
well,
yeah,
both of
but yeah,
them
like
kind of
I like
yeah.
how they did it.
Yeah, both
yeah.
of them kind of just became different people, which kind of sucks, man. Like it's like you giving up yourself for this like immense power. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
but
but
no, Ramon. I mean, I don't have anything really to add about the little girl. I've seen kind of clips of her, so I kind of have an understanding of like what she would have looked like, and it probably would have been creepy. And in the book, it's probably gonna be even creepier because then I'm gonna have to just imagine it because in the
yeah,
movie we don't get it. So that's something that's exciting for me in these. But
Just
I
think
think
of Renesmee.
all right, I'll think about Twilight. Yeah,
but I am excited about the franchise continuing, and I'm excited like
definitely.
with someone like Anya, like especially with what's the new Mad Max movie that's coming out, Furiosa, right?
Yeah,
Like she's already has another role like kind of similar to it, so I know she's
In
gonna
the
do a great
desert.
job. Yeah, in the desert, in the desert. Wow, yes, 100%. That's gonna be funny. They'll watch them come out, or well, not around the same time, but like it's later
yeah,
we'll remember that Furiosa was a thing. But no, like I just like the idea that we do get to see more of it because, like I said, even if you just go on YouTube, look up a little bit more about the books, and just kind of have an idea what the story is about, it evolves and changes so much that it doesn't even seem significant now. I think with the sister is just another fun fact to watch. What I'm excited for is if they ever introduce like Paul's son, because that's a crazier thing. So I don't know, just the whole Dune universe. Like again, I don't think I could read all 6 books because it just seems wild. But I love the idea of watching it, kind of just like anime and manga. Like I'm okay not reading all of it right away, but it's like keep showing me this beautiful like movie with like beautiful soundtrack, like everything about it, the visuals, the actors. Like as long as they're doing that, like I'll
As
keep
long as
watching.
Denis Villeneuve's involved.
That
oh
yeah,
yeah,
that's I mean that too that
that's enough.
matters because I
Yeah,
don't want it to become like a Star Wars and ultimately just be like, oh, here's another Dune movie just because you paid all the money.
Money grab,
Yeah,
money grab.
exactly. It's like please take your time. If you got to break the next one up into 2 movies, I'll suck it up maybe. But
oh man,
I mean
I
I
can't wait.
will.
I can't wait to see what next movie he does because I think he does want to take a little break. So I'm excited because now just like a Christopher Nolan, I'm gonna be like analyzing his next filmography, like for his next movies, and just analyze his whole filmography. I think there's only one movie that I missed from him, and it's like his very first one. So I gotta find that one and watch it.
Which
But
ones?
I can't even tell you the name of it. I
Non
just know that
prisoners?
not Prisoners, one before that.
Okay.
I think Sicario came out before Prisoners. Was it?
No,
Yeah.
no. I think Prisoners was first, and then Sicario.
Yeah, I think it's actually
And
an
then
alien movie. So if you were interested, like look it up. I think it actually has to do with aliens.
Arrival.
Arrival. But yeah, man, I mean, thanks guys for doing this. You, the listener, tell us how we did. Tell us if you want to hear more about us, or tell us if we just kind of myself, butcher all the names, and I don't know what I'm talking about. But I do love this franchise, and I do want to get more of it, and want to get myself more deep in the world, because I just think it's a phenomenal world.
I mean,
I was gonna, if anyone wants to, feel free to join the Discord and tell us everything that we did wrong, and then explain what the right thing is with links. Feel free.
You guys are way too nice. I'm like, no, don't tell us. I'm kidding. No, I mean, again, if you guys listen to us enough, and especially if you made it to this point, you know that obviously we're not experts on all these things. We just fucking love them.
We're not.
We love it. Shut up. we maybe not with your popcorn bucket. You became more of an expert, but like,
dude, when you combine the knowledge that I have of like almost so many different things, like TV, movies, anime, cartoons, like I'm like, I deserve a pass every once in a while.
No. It's well, that's what I'm saying, and I think with Dune. Like, this is why I don't like talking about Star Wars. I think Star Wars and something like Dune, it's just, there's so much to it.
Star Wars is so Dune difficult for dummies.
Well, yes, but what I'm saying, that's
some people are gonna be mad at that.
but that is a good bridge to helping understand. Like, it's so difficult to be an expert on something like this. And again, like, I'm not gonna read all 6 books, but I'm enjoying these movies as they go. Even rewatching the 1984 and the other series, like, they're goofy. I'd rather have this a million times over, and that's all I'm going to focus on, is be like how beautiful this movie was. The story and the way that it's being retold is great, and I want to find out what else they do with it. But I think we all deserve a pass, because unless you're reading all the books and want to join us and be on our next episode and correct all of it, let's go. Yeah.
Well, we'll make sure to have a Dune expert that's not Tony on one of our next episodes, and they can do most of the talking and explaining. But all right, guys, I'll let you guys go. I think we did a great job, and I'm gonna pat myself on the back tonight as I sleep next to my Dune bucket. Let's go, baby.
You perverts.
Bye.